guys. Welcome back to the Renaissance Room podcast. So I'm sitting here editing a column that I'm getting ready to upload, and I was just thinking about where we are today, right? How being without the knowledge of God, being without wisdom, you know what I mean? Look, can I just say this? There's so much wisdom in the Bible, and there's a reason why God commands us to submit our ways to him, because I'm telling you right now, if you allow the world to guide you, to steer you, to give you so many introductions, you will never find yourself. You know why? Because capitalism, because America's philosophy, right, is capitalism, and it's deeply rooted in the fact that it will never be enough, you will never be enough, and there will always be more time to accumulate. A lot of people talk about women being not submissive, and a lot of people talk about women not being or being too masculine. And I really don't think that it's always in terms of provision. I think that provision is just the one element where it's like that is the marker of manhood, which is fair, right? Like, we get it. I'm not here to combat that. But I think the biggest thing that I'm really seeing in regards to relational dynamics, meeting guys, dating, from my own observances, is that it's not that women aren't submissive, right? I think too often men aren't really taught what makes a woman feel safe. And so I think that there's oftentimes this kind of like question mark in regards to that. And so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit here, especially in this modern culture of like hookup culture, which I always say this, it's very clear that this philosophy, this paradigm, this idea that you need more women, it's not working. And I think it takes a very strong person, to be honest, to be rooted in your own philosophies. And it's not a matter of being dogmatic. I've always strayed away from being very dogmatic. I think even still in my work, I'm still like, okay, I could have said that better. You know, I'm always willing to step back, reassess, reevaluate, like, what are we really saying here? How is this landing? But I just think that the biggest thing, I know for me, right, so listen, let me just back it up. So on one end of the spectrum, that spectrum being manhood, masculinity, it's this macho kind of like persona that men typically take on. And it's the silencing of women. It's the erasure of like your voice, your identity, your passion, your goals, and your hobbies. And then while simultaneously holding this resentment for women because you feel like she's not competent, right? So it's like there's no middle ground there. And then you have the complete opposite, where you have guys who are very passive. You have guys who do have the emotional capacity, but they're also not strong-minded in the sense of being a strong leader, right? A leader is someone that we follow because of their strong convictions. We appreciate this leader because this leader is consistent, right? This leader is not someone who's constantly introducing new things, constantly bending to the whims of society, whatever is trending, whatever is hot, right? They're not constantly moving and shifting and being all over the place. Although, right, opinions can change. You find leaders who are very consistent in their values, and that's what makes them good leaders, right? They're not always shifting to the hues of society. And so I think one of the things that I'm realizing with a lot of men is really just kind of like this idea that like you're like, okay, what I'm noticing with men is like the shifting between like the spectrum of masculinity, and it's usually on one end of the spectrum or the other. And so I think with women, we talk about this provision aspect of it, right? Like, I think men often mean like, they think macho, like you have to be like this very strong guy with all these muscles, right? Like physical safety. But I think it's really time to like unpack and like explore what does it look like for a woman to have physical safety, and not physical safety, psychological safety, emotional safety. That's important. And I think that that's really where I just kind of feel like men miss it on that part. And I think that as a society, because it's not something that's prioritized, I think we miss it on that part. And so I think with women, you talk about this idea of being submissive, and I guess we can just really keep it here within the community, the Black community. And it's this, idea that like, you should be submissive to someone who doesn't know where it is that they're going. the moment that women kind of start to question your leadership, right? We don't know if, like, you don't know who you are, right? You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're about. You don't have anything to stand on. You're not looking like a strong leader, right? So it's not just existing in the terms of like you being successful or you being strong. That's not the point. Like, women marry guys who don't have those things all the time, right? Like, clearly that's not the answer. But like, when you're showing up as someone who is constantly like bending to the whims of society, that shows poor leadership. That shows a lack of safety, because it looks like you're not someone who's strong mentally, right? So that lets me know that, like, I think as a woman, it's more so like, okay, you probably can't bear the brunt of what I'm carrying. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's something said about a guy who is just not strong-minded, and like someone who's always kind of like someone who just doesn't have their own values. Like, that's a big thing. And I just think that that's really where we're missing it in terms of relationships. And I think that that's the aspect of masculinity that we value that is oftentimes undervalued because it's not monetary. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that if men would be a little bit more sturdy within themselves, be sturdy within your convictions, right? Like, and I think when we talk about being sturdy, again, it's always seen in this very like macho kind of like dynamic where you don't give your woman a voice, and it's very like misogynistic, and like, it just becomes very toxic. Like, like it's like, I am the one who gets to say, you don't have a voice. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're really kind of at this polarity of two extremities, and we're not really finding middle ground, and there's not a lot of understanding as to why this is and why these things are happening. So I think that's like the biggest thing. And I just think that it's really time to kind of like assess your values, especially as the world really heads towards destruction. So many people are oftentimes willing to adopt new ideologies, new philosophies, new ways of being without actually considering like, okay, are these new beliefs, right? This new ideology, this new context, is this going to lead me to the life of fulfillment? And I think if you're banking on America to do that, you're setting yourself up for failure, because has America ever done that? I just watched this documentary. It's called Borrowed Futures, and it was a great documentary. It was about college. Just so happened that Anthony O'Neill was within the interview. I thought that was so cool. And, he just was like talking to the kids about college and so forth. And so many of the kids were really, really set on going to college, which is nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything, I'm back and forth on the fence. I'd like to stay a little neutral. I think that there are some benefits. There can be some benefits in regards to institutionalized learning, but I do think that oftentimes you're taking a gamble. Sure, in life, there's always a gamble, but I just think that the probability of college and the return on your investment is pretty low, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it's about a skill set. So anyway, I talk about that all the time. But I'm not completely denouncing college. That's that's been my whole thing. But I do think that there really is just something said about America's promises. Like, she's not loyal to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she promises you so many things. Like, she promises you that if you just listen to this new philosophy, if you just go down this way, then you will have this life of fulfillment. You will be understood if you join this community. You will be accepted if you adopt these philosophies and like follow this movement and march to the beat of this new drum, right? Like, she is not loyal. She lies. She's a liar. And she lies a lot, okay? And I just think that there comes a point in time where we have to wake up and realize that she's lying to us, that we're all being lied to. She's playing us, okay? We're all in a relationship with her, and she is playing us. And I think we have to just like tap into that, And so I think when we talk about self-exploration and we talk like, please understand that your journey is your journey. And like, when you have God on your side and you believe in God, that's your journey. That's the journey. You're in it. You don't have to go out and try all these different things. You simply exist. You simply explore by simply being, right? By following your inner compass in terms of like what it is that God has put on your heart. What are the things you're passionate about? You know what I mean? And you have to unearth that, because America gives you things to be passionate about, right? Like, she tells you if you go to New York, she's going to promise you this bomb career in fashion and design. And you get to New York and there is vitriol. There is deprivation, right? She's a liar. She is a liar. She is not to be trusted. And yet we trust her time and time again with our futures. We trust her time and time again with our philosophies. You know what I mean? To be free, which is what she promises, is to have independent thought. It's to have, like, to rid yourself of cognitive distortion. It's to educate yourself. It's self-empowerment. And it's not through anything that she can give you. It's by simply living and following your innate curiosity. I had an innate curiosity that led me here. And that was wondering why things were. And it's always kind of like this marketing thing that's this tactic of like, oh, question everything, right? Like I've seen this branding like several times. It's like question everything. And it's like, well, okay, we can question everything, but like, what are we questioning? Because typically what we're questioning is traditionalism, but we've clearly seen that traditionalism, right? God-fearing principles, biblical principles, all these things that we seek to question, right? Family structures and all these different things, right? In the name of traditionalism, because we just need new stuff, right? We just need more. It's not enough. We need something new. We need something hot, right? That's what she promises. So we forego the traditionalism that has proven to work, that has led to the results of happiness, that we have seen the conclusive evidence that this is going to lead to fulfillment. We've seen it, right? And so we take on these new philosophies. We don't realize that it's completely about capitalism at this point. It's completely marketable. It always has been, but at least we had a little bit of say, At least we had a little bit of say. And so we take all these things and we don't even realize where this is leading us. But if we can look back on America's promises, we can clearly see that this is not what has worked. And then I think my rebuttal to anyone who always tries to make these arguments in regards to Christ, religion, whatever, these are people who have never took the time to actually sit with it, practice it, and really, you know what I mean? Like, and that's my problem. And that's what I don't like about the generation today. And that's what I don't like about like supposed progressives. I'm not even really talking politically. I'm just talking about people who are so quick to adopt a new philosophy or a new way of thinking in terms of like modern technology or whatever is hot and hot topic or whatever. Like, you guys don't ever really even sit and like, you didn't even try. Like, I critiqued spirituality. I critiqued Buddhism. I critiqued, like Western cultures in terms of like spirituality and like I critiqued that. But guess what? I adopted it. I lived it. You know what I mean? And I saw certain things that were like, whoa, this isn't grounding enough for me personally. You know what I mean? And so I just think that we're really after this idea that is freedom, but really what it is the life of no structure. And we know that a life of no structure leads to mental disorders, right? Try waking up on your own time and just like never really having a clear sense of purpose, which you may already do this, and I think most people do. But having no clear sense of purpose, not really having anyone to be accountable to, you're going to very easily fall prey to whatever is out there. Like, you're susceptible at this point to anything. Like, when I think about like antibodies, you know what I mean? Like, there are just certain things like that your body fights off. You know what I mean? Like, you're eating the right foods, you're doing the right things. Your body kind of like fights off certain things. You know what I mean? Because you have some type of structure, you have some type of regimen. But like, when you're just eating anything, when you're just adopting anything, you're not going to be led to happiness. I'm telling you, you're not going to be led to fulfillment. You're about to be led to death of morale, right? You're going to be in a prison. You're going to be in a prison. I'm telling you, right? You're going to be in a mental, spiritual, and emotional prison. And there is no way out of this prison. You know why? Because America has the keys. And she's not giving you the keys. And she never has given you the keys. So, like, there just comes a point in time, you guys, where you just really have to, like, stand on something. I think that we're getting to this point now where it's like, stand on something. I don't think that entirely what I'm saying is new. I think that this has always been, the thing. But I do think that now we're really coming up on this stage where we're getting ready to like, I don't, because you guys have no idea where this is leading us, right? We have not seen this like to where there is just this mass cooperation, but I'm positively sure that there's just going to come a point in time where it's like, you're really going to have to stand on something, because in a second, you're going to fall for anything. And you may get down later in life and realize like, oh my gosh, right? In the midst of me adopting every philosophy, going against my values, right? Shoving aside the shame that we feel, that really is personal conviction, right? That's all shame is. It's personal conviction. It's to say, you know what? I probably shouldn't have did that. I went against my values. Prime example. Went on a date. I knew I didn't show up as my best, right? And I'm like feeling a little shameful, like, you know, did I say the right thing? Da, 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 da. And it's really because I knew I was nervous. I knew that I had a little too much anxiety, ravaging and raging. So I was shameful because I was acting out of alignment of what I know myself to be. Do you see what I'm saying? And like, it's not a matter of just dating and relationships, but I thought that was a good example because this is what we're talking about in this podcast episode. It's just more so like, you guys, like, that's a good thing. Shame. Why do we adopt envy, right? One of the most corrupt and devious emotions, to be honest. Like it's a very corrupt, like envy is horrible. Like it will literally make you want to kill a person. Like it's crazy. Envy is a very nasty emotion, but like we want to forego shame. People don't want self-accountability. And guess what? This is not going to lead to happiness or fulfillment because you're not going to grow. You're never going to grow. Like if you never sit with yourself and be like, you know what? For example, you became a better student, a better teacher, whatever, because you had something to be accountable to. You had expectations that needed to be met, right? You had strong convictions about certain things. You studied for the test. You know what I mean? That made you a better person. That got you the grades, right? So I don't know how we think adopting this lifestyle of fluidity without consequence, without personal conviction, without morale, without core values, without strong values or strong convictions in regards to ourselves and what we believe, with this really, really fluid lifestyle, how do we think that is going to lead us to a life that is enjoyable, right? If we know that nothing good is worth having, if we know that good things take time, if we know all these things, why would we be so quick to believe that a life of fluidity, a life of no accountability, no hardship, right? That's why we have the happy train, okay? That's why we have so many people foregoing the hard things. Why would we think that that's going to lead to happiness? That is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you are being sold a lie. America is she's lying. She's not telling the truth. And I'm here to tell you the truth. Listen to me, because she's lying. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we're really putting ourselves on the path of destruction. And I think the most unfortunate thing about America and her lies is that when you get to the end of the tunnel, it's just you. In that documentary, when those kids were graduating, right, and they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and they're talking about how they have $700 worth of student loan debt that they have to pay each month, $900, $50K paid in 30 years, and I still got $100K, right? Now you're stuck with your own choices, and now you have no one to take it out on. And so I think what we're going to have, because we don't do the hard things, because we don't have the discipline, because we don't have the emotional intelligence and cognitive abilities to reason for ourselves, I think what's going to happen is that we normalize envy. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take all this frustration out, right? All these things we've accumulated in the pursuit of self-exploration, and we're going to take it out on each other. And guess what? It will be allowed, because that's what America's already conditioned us to do. Say whatever, do whatever, say whatever, hit whoever, kill whoever, right? And so, it's going to be absolutely chaotic. And it's not really a conspiracy. I think that it's very clear to take a look at something and say, okay, I can very clearly see where this is going to lead us in the long haul, in the long term. And I just think it's completely disruptive. It's chaotic. And I don't think people realize it. So you want to be mindful. That's all I'm saying. I'm just here to employ and introduce. And I truly believe that when you don't know who you are, it's the worst thing to hand yourself over for someone to tell you who you are. Like, that's absolutely the worst thing. And there's nothing wrong with trying anything new. But understand that, like, at some point, right, in your life, you have to have a little bit of confidence within yourself, right? What are the things you need to unlearn? What are the things you need to learn? And what are the things that make you you, right? We talk about childhood trauma. We talk about the inner child workings and so forth. Go back to the core things. What were you taught? What were the things that made sense, to be honest? Like, what were the commonalities? What were the things that were instilled in you that made you a better person, that made you the person that you are today? Don't get me wrong, right? We know that everyone's childhood is imperfect, but I think that there comes a point in time where you have to realize, it's not all bad, right? Like, it's not all bad. I didn't have you know what I'm saying? And I just think when you, again, you can capitalize off of it. That's how we've seen the rise of healing coaches and holistic healing. And where are they now? Where are the people who were on this bandwagon selling t-shirts, podcasts, courses, books? Where are they now? You see, it's a fad. It phases out. You don't spend your whole life, deconstructing your childhood. Okay. You grow up, you live, you learn, you move on, and you realize, hey, you take a little bit of the good with the bad. And if you're lucky, if you mature, right, you can eventually get to a point where you say, this was pretty good because, hey, I turned out all right. I'm listening to this podcast. I am working on self-improvement. You know what I mean? This turned out okay. I believe that everything that I am is definitely rooted in the grace of God. I'm also very much aware of my privilege having two parents. I believe that because of my two parents, I am a very whole being, right? I'm not typically looking to fill any void. I'm not looking for anyone to complete me in that other aspect of my life. I'm very whole, you know what I mean? So I'm not like someone who just feels the need to just kind of bend to the whims of whatever in the pursuit of myself, because I know who I am. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I'm aware of that privilege, but I'm also keenly aware that, hey, your childhood experiences can shape you, and there's a lot to glean from it in a positive way. And I don't think that everything needs to be critiqued, and I don't think that everything needs to be debunked. And, I just think when we get to this point, hey, we really have to look up and say, where is this leading us? Where are these choices leading us? We reach this point in our lives where we just go with the flow, and then we end up in the middle of nowhere, So, hey, I just think that, overall, we got to do better, y'all. We got to consider some things. Peace.